welcome to the official YouTube channel for the Foot and Diabetes Journal. We are a grassroots open access journal founded by Robert Menzies. The purpose of our YouTube channel is for you to get to know us better. This is an opportunity to discuss upcoming research and interview budding new researchers. If you'd like to submit your research, please send us an email or submit it through our website, which will be available in the description box below. In our previous episode, you got to meet Dr. Judith Barbaro-Brown, an esteemed educator, assistant master, and acting vice principal at Great College. And today, you'll be meeting Sun Scientific's Chief Operating Officer, Vikram Ravikumar, and we'll be discussing the AeroWrap product. So Vikram, how are you doing today?
Ektaa. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So you have an incredibly interesting background. If you don't mind, we go through this very quickly. Sure. So you did a BA in economics and political science. However, you have a keen interest in chronic venous disease and lymphedema and contemporary art. So that was a lovely little mix. Sure. Did you want to tell us a bit about that?
Well, we could start with the chronic venous disease and lymphedema. I kind of got lucky where, well, it was unlucky at the time, I thought. But I graduated back in the 2008-2009 financial crash, and I was, I have an economics degree, and I was thinking about going into Wall Street. And rather than doing that, my sister was like, don't do that. My dad's a vascular surgeon. He's a practicing physician, but he's a patent junkie. So he is always coming up with new ideas and scribbling stuff. And I always grew up with medical devices strewn around the house. So, no engineering background, but I've always loved the medical device space. I love playing with all the different gadgets. And one of the things for a long time that he's been tinkering and thinking about was improving chronic swelling treatments. So I've been working on the AeroWrap and some related intellectual property. We've been really lucky where we've built up different companies where stuff unrelated to venous disease. We had a whole laparoscopic instrument business, but it's all innovative new technologies. And we want to, provide value and come up with new ideas. And that's what we do. And the contemporary art.
That sounds interesting.
I'm from New York, and there's a great art scene, and it's a great way to kind of meet creative people who are totally not in my line of work. So I really enjoy that as well.
It's all about balance, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's great. So please tell us about the AeroWrap product. Is it FDA approved?
Yes. So AeroWrap, we have a few different products related to the AeroWrap line. AeroWrap itself has a 510K clearance, but it's a class 1 medical device, so it's widely available. We also have an advanced therapy version that's the AeroDVX, and that actually adds an IPC pump to it. And that also has a FDA 510K clearance, but that's a class 2 prescription only medical device.
Okay. So compression therapy can be applied in several ways. So either through stockings, sleeves, or wraps worn directly on the skin, through garments worn over clothing, or through bandage wraps around an individual area. The compression either can be done manually or by machine. So what are the most beneficial features of the AeroWrap system?
Sure. So you're totally right where there's a lot of different modalities for compression, and compression is pretty widely used. In general, compression is the idea of putting external compression to overcome internal fluid retention and high pressure. But the most important thing in our mind is compliance. Because if you're unable to actually apply the therapy and use it, you're not going to get any benefit from it. So I'll say AeroWrap, the biggest benefit is that we've tried to make it easy to apply. It has Velcro on straps, and it uses a hand pump to apply air compression. And that allows you to accurately apply and maintain measurable compression. Beyond just the ease of use for AeroWrap, I think the important thing is really looking at dosage and type of compression, where other compression modalities like elastic stockings can be a little bit difficult to apply because they use elastic yarns to put on, or even compression bandages, which are for self-application are almost impossible for a patient to do at home. We've kind of taken a different approach where we have this Velcro on air compression. But what we're also finding is that the air compression is highly inelastic. So you get what's known as a very stiff on the static stiffness index scale. So what ends up happening, you have a very high working pressure with a low resting pressure. And that allows you to have really great venous and lymphatic return while keeping the comfort and safety of it with that low pressure.
Okay, that's great. So using compression therapy can provide protection from further injury during physical activity such as exercise or walking long distances. Have you any data available for your product being used in this way, and especially with those that have intermittent claudication, especially if it helps to reduce spasms or cramps?
Sure. Most of our data to date, we've really focused on the chronic venous insufficiency and venous leg ulcer treatment side. We definitely think that these kind of markets, we've seen in the sports compression and sports recovery market, an explosion of devices and use, especially from the consumer side. We certainly think the technology we developed has applications there. And, we're developing some products that will be launched very soon, and we'll have more data as we do that from a more consumer facing product. But we also are really focused on a lot of the clinical applications that, easy to apply and measurable compression can be used.
Okay. So regarding clinical applications, have you got any guidelines for those with PAD and what pressures you would recommend for using in that population?
Sure, yeah. So traditionally, we really focused more on the chronic venous insufficiency and VLU and lymphedema markets, and that's where it's okay to have high levels of compression because you need to overcome those internal hypertensions. Obviously, with PAD, mixed disease, and diabetics, there's the risk of overcompressing. We actually think that's a huge opportunity for our type of technology. So it's measurable and it's highly inelastic. So because it's highly inelastic, as I mentioned before, you get that static stiffness difference. You can actually get a very high working pressure with a low resting pressure. Our current AeroGauge, it's a hand pump that allows you to switch between 3 different compression ranges. The lowest pressure range we offer is 20 to 30. It's certainly the physicians, they're the ones who should recommend the pressure. But our understanding of it is you probably do not, especially for mixed disease and diabetics, do not go over that 20 to 30 level. But we're also, to be honest, we are looking specifically in this market where there's a big opportunity and a big need for people to reduce swelling with a safe and effective compression product. So we may be coming out in the very near future with a version that provides lower levels of compression beyond our normal swelling reduction products.
Okay. And have there been any studies looking at the outcomes of AeroWrap against other products?
Yes. So we had done a non-inferiority study. Just take a step back we didn't invent compression. Just the idea is we think we're going to go about compression in an easier to apply way and also have specific technical details of using air compression, because that's a lot of, we do inelastic Velcro on product. The air fills up, goes around the leg or the anatomy that we're going to be compressing. And that's really effective for when you have the muscle movement to really get the venous lymphatic flow going. We had done a non-inferiority study to look at AeroWrap for venous leg ulcer treatment against 4-layer bandaging and a 3-layer Uniboot.
Okay.
And so, it was shown effective with the added benefit of self-management versus just having to go to the clinic to receive that treatment. We're doing a lot more studies now. And one of the key places that we're really looking at is the static stiffness index, because that really shows the technical specifications of the type of compression that we're doing versus other modalities. And the initial data that we're seeing is that air inelastic compression is much more stiff. You get that much bigger difference between working and resting pressures than the other compression modalities.
And are these studies, are they published or are they available to be published?
The non-inferiority study was presented at this the SAWC, and it was posterized, and I think it was published. I have to check. I think it was published in Wound Magazine. And the new SSI studies, we're working at a multicentric study that will be published probably next year.
Okay, that's great. Do you know how patients that have end-stage renal disease, how they could benefit from using your product, but also you could reduce the risk of pleural effusion?
Yeah, so that's a really interesting question, because one of the things that we're looking at is, we have kind of a flexible core technology, and where else is it useful? We launched initially the lower leg sleeves. We're now launching an upper extremity version for upper extremity compression. And we even have a product where it's a small, it utilizes our same hand pump technology and bladder technology. And we're using it for hemostasis post hemodialysis. Yeah.
Okay. That's fabulous. So when compression therapy is often used for conditions like lymphedema, have you looked into benefits of AeroWrap in other patient groups with venous ulcerations and lymphedema that have an effective reduce in pain?
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah. The initial non-inferiority study that we did, one of the outcomes was pain reduction. And while we weren't looking to have a superiority study, we did show up to be highly effective when comparing to the best standard of care. In terms of some of the patient populations beyond that, those are places we're always looking to see where compression is widely used and where else can our specific technology be effective. We are seeing we are looking at a few different areas. One is acute needs of compression, especially for orthopedic patients who undergo joint replacement. And another one is where our patients, I kind of discussed them before, who have swelling, but they have comorbidities that generally shy away from compression therapy, like PAD and diabetic patients. And we think, there's a huge unmet need for those patients to manage their swelling.
So, I mean, based off of what you said, how would you like to see research in the area of compression therapy be developed?
I think Dr. Hugo Parsh and Dr. Giovanni Mosti, they've done a big service to compression, to understanding compression and what makes compression effective. And they really brought into the nomenclature the idea of looking at stiffnesses and looking at different, there's elastic versus inelastic, even understanding the dosage of compression. Oftentimes with other modalities, you don't know what compression level you're really applying. And especially as we look at the different patient populations, their different needs for compression dosage. Personally, I also think we need to look more at compression degradation. A lot of patients who receive compression therapy have it applied by a clinician, and then they come back maybe a week later. And that initial compression amount, that dosage that they receive, degrades sometimes rapidly if they have a lot of edema. And really understanding how that may affect outcomes is important.
That's fabulous. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and thank you so much for discussing the AeroWrap product. Is there anything else you'd like to add on top of that before we go?
No. Well, first, I'd like to add that I personally love the mission that you guys are doing. I think education is key, and bringing together different researchers and products with clinicians and getting the word out there is very important, because we're not going to be able to have effective change without people knowing about these problems.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very well said. Thank you so much. Well, thank you so much for your time today, and enjoy the rest of your day, and enjoy New York. That's absolutely amazing.
Bye.
Bye.